Hello, welcome to Illinois Stories. I'm Mark McDonald in Nokomis, where they take their baseball seriously. No fewer than 3 Hall of Famers are from this area: Bottomly-Ruffing-Schalk, hence BRS Baseball Museum in Nokomis. People that come here, baseball lovers that come here, find it irresistible. Jim Eisenbarth, the first thing you see when you walk into the museum are 3 cases.
Right.
One for Bottomly, B, one for Ruffing, R, and one for Schalk, S.
BRS.
Those are the 3 Hall of Famers that are commemorated in the museum.
The 3 namesakes.
And of course, it's a baseball museum, so it's much more than just the Hall of Famers.
Right.
But that's really the hook, isn't it? Because
Yes.
people come to Nokomis because of these 3 individuals.
That's the 3 individuals are all lived in Montgomery County.
Mm-hmm.
All 3 of them are Hall of Famers.
Mm-hmm.
And Ruffing and Bottomly both went to school at Nokomis, graduated from Nokomis High School.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the connection.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. The individuals that co-founded the museum for a long time had thought about starting something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And what a better way to focus first,
Yeah.
and then it's expanded, as
Right,
you know, to
right.
a lot of people.
Let's start with Bottomly, and I
Yeah.
love this picture because it's so darn big. You can really get a feeling for what what's looking like.
We have an old copy of that, and the board approved it taken to a professional photographer because it was going. And what he did was put it through a computer, and you won't know it now, but he filled in, compared to the other picture, he filled in socks, glove, hand, and we did that with all 3 individuals.
Bottomly was really sort of he was very popular because they called him Sunny Jim Bottomly because of his disposition. He had a
very
sunny
cheerful
disposition.
right? Always had a smile, always seemed to be in a good mood. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was it.
I asked you to pull out some items,
Yes.
and I'm just gonna. Can I touch this? Is it?
Yeah. No,
okay.
I think it's fine.
Right, because this is really precious. This is his first baseman's mitt. He
That's
was
what we're
left-handed,
told. Yes, that's
so
correct.
he wore this on his right hand,
Right.
and this is his honest-to-goodness mitt.
That is what we have been told and believed to be true.
Wow.
Yeah.
And his signature. If you look at this
on
baseball,
yeah.
Bottomly right there. On
We have
on that
others in addition to that one, but that's one of them.
Here's another good picture of him right here. When he was with the Cardinals, he played for several teams, but he's most noted for his
10,
play
12
with the
years,
Cardinals.
outstanding first baseman for the Cardinals.
Yeah. When people come in here and you start talking about Bottomly, what are they most curious about, or what do they like the best?
Well, first of all, they know that his family had lived here for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it wasn't not too long ago that one of the Bottomleys just passed on.
Uh-huh.
Since most of the Nokomis, and I think this is an official survey now.
Okay.
But if you talk to them, they'll say 65. They agree. 65% Cardinals.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so that pushes them towards Bottomly.
Right.
The other 35% Cubs.
Yeah.
So
right.
just so we got that straight.
Yeah, I
okay?
buy that. I buy that.
And since he did go to Nokomis and lived in Nokomis, in fact, technically, when you do these kind of things, there's a little town next door that's called Colton, a little town, and we usually think of them as Nokomis, but I got to make it clear.
Greater Nokomis.
Okay, I got to be careful, and because Ruffing lived in. Ruffing, for example, lived in Colton.
Okay, but he went to Nokomis High School.
But he went to Nokomis High School.
Yeah.
So
I want to show a picture too because Jim Bottomly used to come back in the off season.
Yes, he did.
And
More than
they
once
lived
often.
here, and the house they lived in is still here.
2 of them.
But,
yes.
But this is really interesting because here he is in a newspaper picture showing the bunch down at the pool hall how to field a ground ball. Isn't that
as he did? As he says, it says as he did it in the Sportsman's Park. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's got a big old cigar in his hand too.
Yeah.
Well, so much for fitness.
They actually brought out more than once. Other professional ball players would come with these guys, and they play some local teams.
Yeah.
I mean, they would do that. That happened more than once.
Yeah.
Fortunately didn't. I wasn't old enough to see that.
It's so different now.
Yeah.
I mean, they played because they loved it, and they weren't rich men. They didn't get rich playing baseball. They made a living, but they didn't get rich doing it.
I think they all did something else.
Yeah.
Right.
This is really neat. A walk through here. I mean, there's way too much to show during this program,
right.
but as you can see, it's similar to the things that. Well, we will take a look at this one, because you've got a picture with Bottomly and Ruffing together. Ruffing's on the viewer's right with the New York uniform on,
right.
And he was a right-handed pitcher.
That's right.
Bottomly on the left, and I don't know Bednar, but he's in there
But he
too.
played for the Pirates for a while.
Okay.
I know that.
Yeah, but both of these guys right from Nokomis here,
Yeah.
and in the Hall of Fame, and one of the pictures taken together, which is really neat. We're gonna get to see some of the Ruffing collection, some of the Schalk collection.
Correct.
We're gonna talk to an ex-Cub that came in here and used to be on the board of the.
That's correct. Used to be president.
Yeah, he pitched against some of the greatest hitters of all time. So thanks so much for letting us come in, and we'll get to see more of it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, Kurt Davis, the R in BRS Museum is Red Ruffing.
Correct.
And another Nokomis High School graduate.
Yes.
Inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Yes.
And only this guy was a catcher.
Pitcher.
A pitcher, a right-handed pitcher.
Right.
Thank you. We're going to visit a catcher next.
Yes.
A right-handed pitcher, and boy, was he in the right place at the right time. When you pitched for the Yankees in the 30s, you knew that you were going to be on a good team, didn't you?
Yeah, and he was a star of the Yankees. I mean, one of their top pitchers of the 30s. Him and Lefty Gomez.
Yeah. Oh, they had what a great team. I'm going to hold up a picture of the 1939 World Champion Yankees, and the reason I want to hold this up is because if we look over in the top left corner over here, we got Red Ruffing standing right between Joe DiMaggio and Bill Dickey. And that's pretty darn good company, isn't it?
Yeah.
and down here is Lou Gehrig. So what a powerhouse of a team. Yeah, what a powerhouse of a team. And he pitched for, I think, did you say 16 years?
Roughly, yeah. It's a pretty long career. And very, I mean, I'm trying to think if he was the all-time Yankees win leader.
Probably
during
that period.
Yeah,
during that period he would have been. Now, I mentioned he was from Nokomis. When he was a kid, it didn't look good for him because he had an accident that almost cost him an athletic career, didn't it?
Yeah, when he was, I believe, 18, maybe give or take a year, he had an accident and he was working in the coal mines a couple miles outside of town. There's a town called Colton, and he lost, varying reports, 1 to 4 toes. And he was a very good hitter at the time. Kind of forced him to go into pitching, which was a blessing in the long run, I guess, because he went on to have a very productive career.
Still, he was a good enough hitter, wasn't he? I think that even in the majors, they would use him as a hitter sometimes. But I'm looking at now at this clip right here, Nokomis youth hurt in mind. Charles Ruffing, now they say lose his foot. He didn't lose his whole foot.
No, he did not.
But he did lose enough toes that it was an impediment to him. And we've got some great pictures of him here. This is a wonderful picture, and this would have been about mid-career, I guess, when he was with the Yankees. And good-looking guy, real good-looking guy. I think he's better looking than Bottomly, but the women, I guess, disagree with that. And here's one. Everybody in the 40s, almost everybody, had to take a break to go into the service for the war. And this is him while weighing in and getting an Army physical before he went into the war.
And I believe he was a mechanic on airplanes. I've seen some pictures of him working on airplanes in military uniform. So I think that was one of his roles.
We opened up on this Red Ruffing baseball, but next to you on the right are 2 really old and seasoned baseballs. And describe what's on these baseballs to me, if you would.
This one is the 1937 Yankees team, and it's kind of rough to see, but you can see Lou Gehrig's signature, and I believe most of the team has signed this. And then this one we try to have dated. It's a little faded, it's 70, 80 years old. But it's definitely in the 30s with the Yankees, and you can see Ruffing's last name right there. So
fantastic.
Very exciting.
Fantastic. Yeah, you had an expert come in and appraise these things, and they're the genuine article. You do know that, don't you?
Yeah, and we knew they was old baseballs, but just not knowing the signatures, we could not identify them. We could see Ruffing's, but we couldn't identify the other names on there. So,
for decades, the Wheaties boxes have determined who's a real sports star and who's not. And sure enough, decades ago, Red Ruffing was on the Breakfast of Champions box, wasn't he?
Yeah.
1937.
It's amazing that teaching you how to throw a fastball.
Yeah, isn't that nice? Well, it's wonderful. I mean, to have a collection like this in their hometown, and for you all to be able to keep this going, it's an amazing accomplishment.
Well, we think so. Just with all 3 guys and the collection we have of local baseball, and mainly for these 3 guys. I mean, the museum was initiated with those 3 guys in mind, but it's since grown. So, but
if it's baseball, bring it on, right?
Exactly.
Thanks, Kurt.
Thank you.
Well, Glenn Hobby, a lot of people call this part of Central Illinois a hotbed of baseball players because so many players went to the major leagues from around here. You're from Witt, right? Which is just down the road.
Just down the road for a mile.
And you played. You had quite a career with the Cubs.
Had a nice career with the Cubs. Enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah. What years did you play?
57 through 64.
Wow. Well, that's a pretty good long stint.
My first 3 years, I led the Cubs in wins. Won 10 my first year and 16 my next 2 years.
Good for you. That's fantastic.
And it was really exciting and enjoyable.
And you are intimately involved with this museum. Or you were one of the founders of this museum, huh?
Right, one of the founders. And that was when I lived over here in Hillsboro, which is only 10 miles away. But since I've retired, I've moved over to by Vandalia, which is about 40 miles away. And so I'm not here as often as what I used to be.
Yeah. I'm going to show a couple of pictures of you when you were during your playing days. This is your headshot. And the Cubs uniform hasn't changed that much, has it?
Neither's the Cubs.
No. And here's your motion, boy. This is you in your windup, or just finishing your windup.
Just finishing. Yeah, that's right outside the
inside
the walls.
The ivy-covered walls of Wrigley Field.
Uh-huh.
Hey, was Wrigley Field a fun place to play?
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was the greatest place in the world to play a baseball game. Fans were close. Everybody felt part of the game.
Yeah. And the Cubs, in the years you played, from 67 to 64, were they any good?
We had some good ball clubs. In fact, we didn't realize how good we were, really. We underrated ourselves, and we played too much defensive baseball. We should have played completely offensive baseball. But it seemed like every time we'd get something going and things would go, somebody'd get hurt. Like Drott was one of the main pitchers. He'd get hurt. Mo Drabowski, he'd get hurt. And after about 4 years, and I got hurt. And it just seemed like nothing would gel for a full year.
Couldn't get the head of steam going.
Couldn't get everything going.
I'm going to ask you two questions.
We get Kenny Hubbs at second base, and we lose him in a plane accident. And
I'm going to ask you first, who's the best player you ever played with? Who's the best Cub you ever played with?
Best all-around player?
Yeah.
To me, it was Ernie Banks when he was a shortstop. He played shortstop behind me for 2 or 3 years, and I thought he did an excellent job at shortstop. In fact, I thought he was the most underrated shortstop in the league. I think in 1959, he led the league in fielding percentage, and someone said, well, he don't cover any ground. Well, if you look at the records, he fielded more balls than Louis Aparicio that year. So I really thought Ernie was the best ball player that I'd ever seen. Not seen, but played with.
Who's the best ball player you played against?
Willie Mays, without a doubt.
Really?
Willie Mays.
You had to pitch. Of course, you had to pitch to Mays.
Oh yeah.
What was that like?
Oh, it's tough. But that's what made it fun, because it got the adrenaline flowing.
Now you were right-handed, right?
I was right-handed.
You had to pitch against Musial too, who was left-handed. That would have been a matchup, wouldn't it?
Yeah, Stan got his hits off me. Not as many as I thought. Someone figured up his average, and it wasn't as good as I thought. I thought it'd be more. But he spoiled a no-hitter for me. I went 7 2/3 in the innings in a perfect game. Then he hit a hanging curveball as a double down the left field line, just barely hit the chalk line. That was the only hit they got.
Oh, man. And that would have been your no-hitter if that had been foul.
Right. Well, if I would have got him out.
Yeah, right. That's right. He might hit a homer.
Right, you never know. Might have been better off he hit the double.
Who's the best hitter you ever pitched against?
For me, the hardest man to get out was Frank Robinson. He was just so strong and so quick on the inside part of the plate. And he could handle the outside pitch, too. I don't know how guys got him out, because when I did get him out, he hit the ball hard. That was my best hope, was get him to hit the ball at somebody.
When you were growing up and playing ball here in this part of Illinois, were you aware that you were playing against other really good players?
As of in the big leagues?
When you were, no, when you were before big leagues. When you were in high school. And, you were aware that there were...
Your man from Springfield, Dick Schofield. If you went to a baseball game and there was 100 shortstops out there working out, you would see Dick first. He just was that smooth and that type of a person.
He got your attention, didn't he?
Oh, man. As soon as you walked out, hey, this guy's going to be a big leaguer. And you could just see it. And I played against him in American Legion ball, so I know. And Dick was a fine ball player.
Jim, in 1912, this is what a catcher's mitt looked like.
Yeah, early 1900s.
This would have been Ray Schalk's first professional catcher's mitt, and look what they had to play baseball with.
I don't know if it was his first, but it was definitely one of his earlier ones when he started Major League. Yes, yeah.
He went into the pros, or major leagues, in 1912, and another of your 3 Hall of Fames from Montgomery County.
That's
Where
correct.
was he from?
Harville, Illinois, about 15 miles south, west of us.
It's been described as a hotbed of baseball.
Yes.
It really is.
Yes,
it was, wasn't it?
It still, in fact, it still is, with regards to, high school. And at one time, a lot of semi-pro teams from Colton and from Nokomis competed, in fact, against some of the pros. They would bring the pros up. They had more than one of those kind of games,
Let's take a look at Schalk. I love this because even back then, they were getting endorsements for doing company work for athletic companies. Here's a Wilson Athletic Equipment Company. Ray Schalk, famous White House catcher. Boy, he's all decked out in everything that Wilson makes.
There we go. Yes.
Isn't that something? Now you can see there their equipment was a little different, wasn't it?
Yes.
In the teens and the 20s.
Very much.
Here's a good picture of Ray Schalk right here. He played most of his career with the White Sox. And what do you think made him special?
Most of what I've read would indicate that he was a real hustler. And one of the things that I had mentioned earlier was that he was one of the first, if not the first, to hustle down to first base and back up throws that were going to first base. So that's unique at that time, I would think.
Well, and one reason I guess he could do that is because most catchers are stocky.
Yes.
And he was not built like that, was he?
5'8", 5'9", 160, 65. So not a big fella. No.
Yeah, not a big guy at all. In fact, here's a really good picture
yes,
of him.
it is.
Yes, he's not. You wouldn't want to run into him at home plate, though, would you?
I think he would have stayed there. That's the kind of that's the kind of player he would know. Yeah, he was.
He was a stalwart, a real stalwart.
He has several, I think, records yet with regards to pitching, putouts, and all the things they keep about catchers.
Yeah, and the White Sox had some really good teams. Well, he was on that team, the Black Sox scandal in 1919,
and has never been. He was one of them that had never been tied in with.
Okay, so he's exonerated. He wasn't part of that corruption.
That's correct.
Yeah,
That's correct.
Here's another picture I want to show. Actually, 2 of them. Here's a picture of him, Ray Schalk, and his 2 brothers. That would be Leo, Walter, and Ray is the youngest. Ray's down here.
I think you're probably right. I think you're right. Yes.
And this one next door to it is really something. What is going on here?
Ray Schalk decided that, or someone challenged him to see if he could catch a ball off the, I think it was the Tribune, Tower in Chicago. The story goes that he took on the challenge and actually 3 attempts. The first one, not his fault, hit I think a scaffolding, and the second one went off his mitt. He caught the third one, and we're talking about 460 feet.
460 feet.
And it must have been staged. Yeah, it had to be staged because there were thousands of people. So it wasn't as if it was something that had been organized.
It was a publicity stunt of some kind, I assume. But he caught the darn thing. And if you were gonna pick a catcher then to take it on a challenge like that, Ray Schalk would have been the one.
Yes, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely correct. Yes. Yeah.
Well, Jim, one of the really interesting things about this is you have some Cardinals uniforms in here that were donated to you by a Cardinals organization player named Jim Staff.
Correct.
And he's from Vandalia. He played in the Cardinals organization.
Yes, he did.
And what I find interesting about this is the uniforms that he gave you were hand-me-downs because the minor leaguers didn't get new uniforms, did they?
Not prior to the 1960s, no. They were handed down.
Yeah. And so these were some of Jim Staff's uniforms that were hand-me-downs.
That's my understanding, yes.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting here is the difference.
Yes.
This one is prior to 1950, I guess,
51.
right? Yeah. And if you look at the difference between this one and the one on the left, you can see that for their 50th anniversary, they changed.
They changed it from a black bat to a gold bat, and with the Cardinals, instead of looking down, we're looking more upward.
Yeah, the birds on the bat.
The birds,
right. They're perched up, straight up instead of bent down like this.
And then you
one.
also notice the buttons versus the zipper that was
right
talked
here
about
here we've got buttons on the shirt, and they put a zipper here, which didn't last apparently very long.
And I don't know how long. Yeah.
Now, There's an interesting story about this hand-me-down, the thing that we were talking about.
Yeah.
Jim Staff was a minor league player, and they came into the clubhouse one day and said, "Okay, here's your uniforms." Whose did he get?
It's Stan Musial, number 6.
Number 6.
They just called his name out and said, "Who's about this height and this weight?" He said, "I am," and the guy, whoever, threw him the uniform, and later he found out it was number. And with his autograph was inside, signature was inside. So he told
number
me,
6, and it had Stan Musial's name on it.
And then he had to decide at the end of the season whether he would return it to the club or should he keep it. And he told me that he, in good conscience, gave it back and found out that almost all the other minor leaguers kept theirs. So that's all.
What a collector's item he gave up, huh?
Because you know where it might be.
Oh,
It might just
be in this museum.
It might be. Probably
wouldn't it have been something?
Yes. Yeah.
Thanks.
Be great.
Mike Geidish, what was it like being Red Ruffing's nephew?
Well, as I said before, I didn't know him when he played, but it was always an honor. I guess if you have a wish in your life, I wish I could have seen him play.
I'll bet.
I hear stories from, his brother, Heine, lived up the road from where I grew up, and he told me a lot of stories about Red. And, for a little kid from a little town like Colton, 300 people, it's pretty good. Yeah. Pretty amazing.
You like you say, you were not old enough to see him play. He had retired by then.
Yes.
But there are some stories in your family about him. I mean, he was very successful. He became a Yankee in 1931.
Yes.
Right at the beginning of the Depression.
Yeah, tough times.
And he came into town after he made a deal with the Yankees, and he was doing okay, wasn't he?
Well, a story I heard, again, this is all stories, that he brought a new Cadillac into town, and a friend of Jim Bednar from Decatur, now was still alive, he said, "Red, what that car cost you?" He said, $5,000. He said, "We don't have $5,000 in Nokomis." Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I was told. And then, of course, he held out as a bat. The Yankees wanted him to be a pinch hitter, and I don't know what year it was that this holdout was, but that was $5,000 also.
Right.
So
they wanted him to pitch and be a pinch hitter. Now that goes into the next thing, because we talked about the mine accident earlier, that he lost 4 toes.
4 toes on his left foot.
And how a person could run is beyond me, but that's really why he was not a hitter anymore, isn't it? Because
he was an excellent
getting
hitter.
down to first base was
right, and just running the bases was very difficult for him, and I'm sure pushing off on the mound was even hard. But he
was a heck of a hitter, wasn't he?
I think he batted over 5 years over 300
as a pitcher. He was hitting over 300
with the Yankees.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, did you think of that today? I think he's got 200 and some complete games. These pitchers today won't. They used to pitch every 3 or 4 days, or 2 days if they needed you. Right. Now it's every 5 days. So a lot of those things he did.
Yeah. So he would pitch every 3 or 4 days. Yes. Plus he'd go 9 innings. None of this stuff about bringing in
I think he holds the record for the most complete games for the Yankees.
Fantastic.
262 games. That's a lot. So. I just wish, and if my mom was alive today, she had more stories, and you would like to get some of those out of her. But the stories she told me, I mean, I believe them to be true. She was telling me about Babe Ruth would come by and that they would go out and get a little moonshine out there in Colton. Now, these are all stories, Mark.
Well, everybody knows the Babe. I mean, Babe had a prodigious appetite.
That's true. And see, Red was the only Yankee that was allowed not to fly. If you remember that, he had a phobia of flying, and according to the papers that I read, he was the only one that was allowed to travel a different way to get there because of his phobia for flying. And his sister had that too, not my mom, but my uncle had that. So my mom's name was Frances, and he had those 2 sisters and 2 brothers. So yeah, it's just something as you're young, you don't think of that stuff.
Right, but as you get older, you say, if I just could have seen him play in his heyday.
I would have loved to have done it. It'd have been great. But again, I was born in '48, and he was done by then. So,
thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming down.
Well, Jim, as impressive as this museum is, the story about how it got built is equally impressive.
Yes.
This was in an old building. That there was a fire next door. It crept sort of in here. Right. And I want to show some pictures because this will really sort of tell the audience the story. This was the old building in the place where the new building is now. This is the same location. So here you are taking down the sign from the old building. And then, of course, it had to be torn down. You leveled it to make way for the new building.
That's correct.
And this is all with about 2 years ago, because you only opened 2 years ago. Then over here, you see you got your blocks started, and you got your roof framed up here. It says "Future Home of BRS Museum," and down here you've got it bricked in, and it's looking nearly finished. This is March
other than the roof line,
of 2007.
Right.
And you did all this by raising money through bake sales, and you begged and you raised money any way you could, and you got an interest-free loan, and doggone it, the community really came through, didn't it?
Yes, we membership, donations, and a few fundraisers. There was a time when we were down to a few $100s, and our insurance was $57,000. So we went with the new building, and I need to tell you guys that a lot of this is volunteer labor. Some is paid, but I got to put a plug in for our Nokomis building trades class, because they did a lot of the inside work, a variety of things.
Right.
And I got to give them credit. They built the cabinets and all. Yeah, the high school.
Wow.
So I need to say that. But
yeah, that's very impressive.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
So,
and you got a brand new facility now, and this should be good for a couple of centuries.
That was one of the convincing things that a lot of people told me. I held out a little bit for the old building, and then finally got around to saying, "Yeah, look." They said, "Look down the road. Don't look right now."
Yeah.
And we did, and we're fortunate. We're quite well off. I mean, I don't mean well. I don't mean that.
I know what you mean. You got what you need.
We're in good shape.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
The BRS Museum is open Monday through Saturday from 9 to 11. Or if you want to get here and just call for an appointment ahead of time, they welcome that. It's free. They do ask for donations. With another Illinois story in Nokomis, I'm Mark McDonald. Thanks for watching.
For a DVD copy of this episode of Illinois Stories, send $19.95 to Network Knowledge, P.O. Box 6248, Springfield, Illinois 62708. Be sure to include the program name, broadcast date, and topic. You may also order with your credit card by calling 800-232-3605 or by using our secure server by going online to networkknowledge.tv.